It's very thick in here because I opened the door and stuff. God, look how mangled that finger's. Look at that. It's so painful. You gonna tell me on an x-ray that that doesn't come out weird? Oh. It's so strange as I go through this experience and just like having to be faced with the reality that they have connections at the hospitals, that I get my rape kits done, they have abilities to suppress information, to change information, to mess with test results, which again, I've clearly said that's actually not that difficult. Anytime they have to send out samples, and those are picked up by couriers. And I saw that in Hawaii, and I met those couriers. And oh, there's the refrigerator turning on. Kind of odd. Um, but not turning on completely. You hear that? That's only partially turning on. But I met those couriers and meeting them and the nervousness one of them had and me questioning them. And I literally was just making conversation like, oh, what's this job about? How did you get this job? What are the qualifications? What do you do? How does it work? Do you just get a phone call or blah, blah, blah? And because he had been sitting there when I was getting my blood work drawn and dropping off urine, and because the doctors were trying to help me in Hawaii to figure out like why I was so sick and why all these things, all this pain and all this shit. How I look like I was on drugs, and you know the breaking out in a cold sweat every other hour for 2 months straight, which ended the minute I went and got tested or started to have a doctor look into it. Which again they wouldn't have looked into, and except for that happened right in front of them, they wouldn't have believed me because that's how this is now. But what red flagged me, and it had been kind of in the back of my head because I'd been like, how are they doing this? Like, how am I testing? Like, oh, I'm in perfect health, but yet nobody in perfect health breaks out in a cold sweat every hour. Nobody. I mean, and literally 24/7. And and then he was there, and it just became very crystal clear because I was standing there waiting to, check out of the whole thing, and I heard one of the phlebotomists, the people that take the blood, kind of in a higher voice because they were trying to catch the courier from leaving, and they were like, "Hey, you can't just take those samples." And lo and behold, they were my samples. There were other samples that they were supposed to be taking, and he was just trying to run off with mine. And most likely, time was of the essence for them because they needed to exchange those samples for other samples and not look suspicious, not take hours to get from one location to another. It is Hawaii. You don't have that much leeway because things are usually like that would be like 20 minutes away. So having to do all that and replace all that and, whatever, whatever. So, anyways, um, yeah, it is really bad in here. And it's because, and I can actually feel a cool, like, air coming down on me from up above here, which doesn't make much sense considering there shouldn't be anything blowing air on top of my head. But that's what they'll do when I leave this area. They'll know that this is literally the only place that I'm going. This is going to be the position that I'm in all the time, is laying here with my head here. So if I were them, I would use these. And what I think it is, and this is my conclusion that I've come to, not knowing shit, and it's just a guess, is that it's not that they use the electrical outlets per se, it's just that they're openings. Like if you have ever gone up in an attic space, which I started doing in Hawaii when I kept hearing her up there. If you have ever been up there, everywhere where there is an electrical element or something like that, what there is in these walls, there's going to be a passageway. Like from this thing, there's going to be a passageway within that wall that leads up because there's going to be electrical. It all goes up into the ceiling. So then it can connect and then go and head out to the main electrical unit. And what I think is that she's up there and she just uses the openings to send that shit down. Because what I hear is, like, and I've described it before, is it sounds like pebbles or sometimes little rocks hitting, and I'll hear them at the outlets. You know, TV, air conditioner, refrigerator. So I don't think it's the actual electronics of it. I think it's just an opening that leads to this room. And that they're probably not using these because they're pretty well sealed. But something like this has more ability. So I went up and checked and they're very loose. So yeah. Or like the vent in the bathroom. Go into the bathroom, it's horrible. But right now it's just raining down on my eyes. Like just raining down and just I can actually feel it getting in my eyeballs. But my hope is that whatever, so that thing just go, that's the shit that's going in our eyes. Because I have recorded a ton of that shit in Hawaii. I mean, it was just prolific in my house. Like, just like raining. But, my hope is whatever higher power created this beautiful creature here, and her name is Vita, and she had a hard life before I got her. I worked very hard to try to make her life better, and they took all that away, and now they're killing her. Literally killing this dog. I hope that whatever higher power created her, because I certainly didn't. I've never created anything this beautiful in my life. Or amazing. That whatever created her will seek vengeance upon the people who kill her. I really do. And any Native American out there listening to this, hiding in the bushes, whatever, I hope you hear me. Because there's going to be part of you because of your culture background, not what you actually practice in real life. That's going to be a little bit, teeny bit at the very least, hesitant. Because you know, if you have any real connection to any culture, that everything is connected. And that I most certainly didn't create this creature. And that this creature is amazing. And your belief that you have a right to take this creature's life for no fucking reason whatsoever will hopefully come back to you. Hopefully, God willing. God, is there a God? I've really started to doubt that. I mean, it's so weird because they're demons. These people are truly fucking evil, which would make you think there must be a God, right? Because there's demons. Let this put this like right above my head and right above my eye. Anything seen? I can't see. I'm closing my eye. Oh yeah, and by the way, that other end cabin is being rented by somebody else tonight, and I was walking over there with Miho a little bit to try to get some air and smoke a cigarette and stay awake, and their light was on, and my guess, this is just a guess, is that there is a rapist in that cabin waiting to come over here and rape me, waiting for me to be knocked unconscious, and that's just literally because that's something that they would do. And I really heavily doubt there's anybody staying in this little cabin area that's not aware of what's going on and participating. Because what happened last night, I'm guessing, is that, I'm starting to get a lisp on my talking. That's the drug. What happened last night is that at whatever point I was knocked unconscious, there were vehicles that came up here. And there were people that got out of those vehicles and came into this room, and they took these dogs out and put them in one of the other cabins and raped and sodomized me. And she did her whole torture shit. So. Whew. Very thick. Very, very, very thick. And here we go again. Convulsing. The jerking. And notice a lot of nose movements with the dogs because it's an astringent. And I'm not sure if it's isoflurane. I really don't know. But it is an anesthetic. That's for sure. That's for sure. It's definitely an anesthetic. And that is very clear to me when I see the neurological response, because that is what anesthesia does. It works on the areas of the brain, and it works on your central nervous system, and it suppresses the ability to feel pain, and it knocks you the fuck out. And that became abundantly clear. I had already thought that, but it became abundantly clear when I was talking to my OB, and I said to her, I think they're torturing my uterus because of the 4-inch burn mark on the outside of my vagina, but mostly because of the excruciating pain that I was having, yet there was no evidence of it in my actual vagina. But my cervix, if you touched it with a cotton swab, which they do, and when they're trying to figure out what's going on, and if you have an infection, that's what they do, it literally felt like someone putting a hot coal onto my cervix. It's never comfortable. Every woman can say it's not, it never feels good. But I've had pap smears my whole life, and it never felt like that. So, and when I said that to her, she said, the only way they could do that, you'd have to be anesthetized. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, that's for sure now. This is anesthesia. So when will the people of the United States start realizing that drug traffickers, heroin users, meth addicts use anesthesia to knock people unconscious and commit their crimes? When will this become commonplace? And how many people will have a memory of me saying, this is happening, and everybody writing me off? And the funny thing is, how out there is it really? Anesthesia is going to be not that hard to get a hold of. Let's be real, because it's not considered a controlled substance or anything. And it does the job. So, and they can combine it with other drugs. Anything that they can make into liquid or gas. Which is probably quite a few things.